Most people imagine jiu-jitsu as discipline, respect, and steady progress. But the reality is far harsher. This art will break your body, test your ego, and quietly erase most of the people who ever try it. Maybe you've been training for years. Or maybe you're just thinking about starting. Either way, you need to hear the 5 brutally honest truths about jiu-jitsu that almost nobody will say out loud. Before we dive in, I want to know who's here. What belt are you, and how long have you been training? Drop it below. It's motivating to see the mix. Now take a breath. Let distractions go. Let's focus, study together, and get better. The first truth is brutal. You probably won't last. Think back to your very first class, or picture it if you haven't started yet. You walk into the room, heart racing, unsure if you belong. The mats are a strange new world. The sharp smell of disinfectant, the slap of bodies hitting the floor, the coach's voice barking instructions you barely understand. Around you, a line of strangers dressed in stiff uniforms, belts tied awkwardly, eyes darting. Some are nervous, some are overconfident. All of you are filled with energy. For a moment, it feels like the beginning of something great. But if you come back a year later, most of those faces will be gone. Look around your own academy today. How many of the people who started with you are still here? How many made it through the first wave of injuries, the first plateau, the first time they realized jiu-jitsu is not a quick climb, but a long grind? The truth is, not many. And if you train long enough, you'll see it over and over again. At first, it bothers you. You wonder why that training partner who promised he'd never quit suddenly vanished. Or why the guy who went all in on rash guards and Instagram highlight reels never even made it to blue belt. But eventually you realize this is jiu-jitsu. The mat doesn't lie. It filters people out. Maybe you've already felt that filter pressing down on you. Dragging yourself to class after a long day when your body begs for rest. Getting crushed under someone heavier, the air squeezed out of your lungs, panic rising as escape feels impossible. Feeling that sharp sting in your shoulder, your fingers aching from grips, your knees swollen from takedowns. Or worse, weeks of training where nothing clicks, where progress feels invisible, where you question if you're wasting your time. That's when the whispers start. Maybe I'll take a break. I'll come back next month. I'm too busy right now. And that's how it ends for most people. Not with a dramatic announcement, not with one big moment, but with small compromises, one skipped class at a time until they disappear completely. The mats are full of ghosts, people who swore they'd stay forever, but didn't. Every gym has them. And the hard truth is, if you're not careful, you could become one of them too. The dropout doesn't always happen suddenly. Sometimes it's slow, like erosion. One missed class becomes 2. 2 weeks off becomes a month. Soon their GI collects dust in the closet, and their name is just another one you don't hear during roll call. Maybe you've been there yourself, sitting in the car outside the gym, trying to talk yourself into walking in. Your body aches, your energy is gone, your mind is making excuses. That inner voice says, skip tonight. One class doesn't matter. But one skipped class has a way of multiplying. The brutal truth is that Jiu-Jitsu doesn't care about your reasons. It doesn't care that you're tired from work, that your boss is stressing you out, that your social life is pulling you away. The mat asks only one question: did you show up? Most people don't. And the people who do, they change. Because Jiu-Jitsu reshapes you the same way pressure reshapes stone. The weak parts crack. The strong parts grow stronger. You've probably felt the frustration of being tapped again and again by the same person. It eats at your pride. You drive home replaying the roles in your head, asking yourself why you even bother. That's the moment most people walk away. But if you endure, if you keep coming back, you eventually realize something. Being smashed, being humbled, being forced to start over, it all forges a new kind of strength. Jiu-Jitsu is not about avoiding failure. It's about surviving it over and over again. Here's what the numbers say. 9 out of 10 people never reach black belt. Most don't even make it past blue. And right now, the odds say you're more likely to quit than to endure. That's a heavy thought, but it can also be fuel. Because if you're still listening, there's a part of you that refuses to quit. And that stubborn part is the only one that matters. Jiu-Jitsu doesn't reward talent alone. It doesn't reward hype or enthusiasm. It rewards persistence. The person who shows up when it's inconvenient. The person who trains through plateaus, through boredom, through doubt. Think about your own life beyond the mats. How many people quit on their goals the same way students quit Jiu-Jitsu? They start diets, businesses, passions, only to stop when progress slows down. They convince themselves they'll come back later, but later never comes. If you can outlast that cycle on the mats, you can outlast it anywhere. Work, relationships, personal goals. The discipline you build here becomes the blueprint for everything else. So yes, the first truth is harsh. You probably won't last. But if you do, if you survive the excuses, the injuries, the pull of comfort, Jiu-Jitsu gives you something rare. Not just a belt, not just technique, but the quiet pride of knowing you stayed when nearly everyone else walked away. The second truth is this: injuries and pain are not optional, they're guaranteed. Most people step onto the mats thinking Jiu-Jitsu is about technique, about cleverness, about leverage over strength. And it is. But underneath all of that, there's a simple fact. This is a combat sport. And combat leaves marks. Maybe you've already felt it. The burning in your forearms when grips fail. The bruises blooming across your legs after drilling guard passes. The stiff neck that greets you in the morning after being cranked in a choke. These are not mistakes. They are part of the deal. Every veteran on the mat carries a story in their body. A popped rib that never fully healed. A shoulder that clicks on cold mornings. Fingers that can't quite straighten from years of gripping collars. If you stay, your body will carry these marks too. You will get hurt, sometimes in big ways, but more often in small, constant ways. The bruises that never quite fade. The soreness that becomes a daily companion. The skin on your fingers peeling from endless grip fights. It's tempting to believe that if you're careful, you can avoid this. But the truth is, even careful grapplers take damage. Because jiu-jitsu isn't chess. It's a full contact struggle against another human being who's trying to bend, twist, and crush you. Some people leave because of this. They convince themselves they're too old or too fragile or too busy to risk injury. But the reality is, the mat doesn't care about excuses. It will demand pain from you. The question isn't, will you get hurt? The question is, will you keep going after you do? And here's the strange thing. Once you accept that pain is part of the path, it loses its power over you. A bruised knee becomes just another sign that you're still here. A sore neck becomes proof that you tested yourself. Every mark is a reminder you are doing something real. Think about it this way. Life itself is full of pain you don't choose, stress, sickness, aging, loss. But on the mat, you choose the struggle. You volunteer for it. And by facing it head-on, you learn how to face everything else. Your sore fingers teach you patience. Your aching back teaches you resilience. Your bruised ribs teach you humility. And your comebacks from injury teach you persistence in a way nothing else can. So yes, the second truth is harsh. Pain is not optional here. But if you embrace it instead of running from it, you'll realize something powerful. Every ache, every scar, every broken grip becomes part of your story. A story of someone who didn't fold when things got uncomfortable. And if you can endure the pain of the mats, you can endure almost anything else in life. The third truth is this. Progress in jiu-jitsu is brutally slow, and most of the time you'll feel stuck. When people first hear about jiu-jitsu, they imagine constant growth. They picture themselves learning new moves every week, climbing the ranks steadily, feeling the power of progress with every roll. And in the beginning, it feels that way. Your first few months are filled with breakthroughs. You learn your first guard pass, your first submission, your first escape. Every class feels like adding a new weapon to your arsenal. But that pace does not last. The higher you climb, the slower it gets. And soon you run headfirst into the truth that makes more people quit than any injury: plateaus. Maybe you've already felt it. Weeks where you feel like you're rolling in circles. Months where your guard keeps collapsing no matter how many times you drill it. Seasons where the same training partner taps you out again and again, and no matter what you do, you can't turn the tables. You start to ask yourself, am I even improving? You leave class frustrated, driving home in silence, replaying the roles in your head. Maybe you even think, what's the point? I'm stuck. I'll never get better. That's the plateau talking. And the plateau is where most people quit. Here's the brutal part. Improvement in jiu-jitsu is almost invisible while it's happening. You won't notice it day to day. You won't even notice it month to month. It only becomes clear when you look back over years. Think about it like this. One day, you're stuck under side control, smashed and helpless. You spend months fighting out, failing, getting crushed again. And then, one random night, without even realizing it, you escape smoothly. You don't celebrate it. You don't even notice right away. But in that moment, your body proves you've been learning all along. Progress in jiu-jitsu is like watching grass grow. It feels invisible in the moment, but if you zoom out, the change is undeniable. The problem is that most people can't zoom out. They want instant results. They want obvious breakthroughs. And when they don't see them, they assume something's wrong. So they quit. But here's the truth. If you stay through the plateaus, you build something far stronger than skill. You build patience. You build humility. You build the ability to keep showing up when nothing seems to change. And that ability is rare. Think about the belts. White to blue feels fast. Blue to purple takes years. Purple to brown takes even longer. And the climb to black is almost always a decade. That means entire stretches of your journey will feel like you're standing still. It's not because you aren't learning. It's because the higher you go, the smaller the improvements become, and the harder they are to notice. Plateaus are not a detour in jiu-jitsu. They are the path itself. So how do you survive them? By shifting your focus. Stop looking for daily victories. Start looking for survival. Did you show up when you didn't want to? That's progress. Did you last a little longer against the higher belt who always smashes you? That's progress. Did you find one tiny adjustment that kept you safe for a few seconds longer? That's progress. Progress in jiu-jitsu is built out of inches, not miles. And those inches are invisible until they stack up over years. The plateau is also where you learn to train for the love of the art itself. When you're not getting obvious results, you have to find joy in the process. In the sweat, the rolls, the conversations with teammates. In the little details that no one else sees. If you can love jiu-jitsu when it's not giving you quick rewards, you've crossed a line most never reach. You've become someone who trains for the journey, not just the outcome. Think about your own life. How many times have you quit something because progress felt too slow? A diet, a workout plan, a project, a passion. You didn't fail because it was impossible. You failed because you couldn't stand the silence of the plateau. Jiu-jitsu teaches you how to live inside that silence. It teaches you that growth is not always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, invisible, happening deep inside until one day it bursts out. There's a saying, a black belt is just a white belt who never quit. It's cliché, but it's true. Because the biggest difference between black belts and everyone else isn't talent. It's that they survived the plateaus that broke everyone else. So, when you feel stuck, when you feel like nothing is working, remember this, that feeling means you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You are inside the process. And the process is slow, painful, and often invisible. But it works, if you stay. So yes, the third truth is harsh. Progress is brutally slow, and most of the time you'll feel stuck. But that slowness is the very thing that makes jiu-jitsu powerful. It forces you to face yourself in the mirror of time. It strips away illusions of quick mastery and asks, will you keep going anyway? If you can answer yes, if you can endure the years of invisible growth, then one day you'll look back and realize something extraordinary. You've become someone who didn't just train jiu-jitsu. You've become someone who understands mastery itself. And that kind of patience, that kind of persistence will carry into every part of your life. If what you just heard gave you something real to hold on to, save this video or share it with a teammate, and check the description for the books and resources I mention. The fourth truth is this: your ego will be broken, not once, but over and over again. Most people step onto the mats thinking martial arts will build their confidence, their dominance, their control. And yes, jiu-jitsu does give you those things. But first, it destroys the illusions you walked in with. Think about your very first roll. Do you remember the shock of being crushed by someone smaller, weaker, maybe even newer? That suffocating pressure you couldn't escape, that sudden choke you never saw coming. The moment your hand slapped the mat, not from choice, but from survival. That was your ego breaking. And it won't be the last time. Because every belt brings new lessons in humility. At white belt, everyone smashes you. At blue, you think you're improving until a purple slices through your guard like it's nothing. At purple, you think you're seasoned until a brown belt makes you feel like a beginner again. Even at black belt, there is always someone sharper, quicker, more precise, ready to remind you that mastery never ends. The mat doesn't care about your ego. It doesn't care how strong you are, how much you've achieved outside, or what reputation you carry in. The mat strips all of that away. It leaves only the truth. Today, can you survive? And most days, the answer will humble you. You will get tapped by someone younger. You will get dominated by someone smaller. You will get exposed by someone newer who learned something you didn't. And each time it happens, a piece of your pride will crack. The temptation in those moments is to protect yourself, to make excuses, to tell yourself you were tired, distracted, not really trying. But deep down, you know the truth. You were beaten. And if you can accept that truth, if you can let your ego shatter and still come back tomorrow, that's when jiu-jitsu starts to change you. Because every time your ego breaks, something else grows in its place. Resilience. Patience. Humility. The quiet strength of knowing you don't need to be the best every day. You just need to keep showing up. The deeper truth is that ego breaking never ends. 5 years in, you will still get humbled. 10 years in, you will still find gaps in your game. Even black belts, especially black belts, know what it feels like to walk into a room, roll with someone world-class, and feel powerless again. But here's the paradox. That endless cycle of being humbled is what makes you grow. Without it, you would cling to illusions. With it, you learn to adapt, to rebuild, to accept that progress comes not from avoiding failure, but from enduring it. Think about the rest of life. How many people live trapped by their ego, unable to admit mistakes, unable to accept weakness, always pretending, always defending, always protecting an image? Jiu-Jitsu destroys that mask. It doesn't matter who you are outside the gym, the mat will humble you. And if you stay long enough, you begin to crave that humbling. Because you realize that every time your ego breaks, the real you gets stronger. So yes, the fourth truth is harsh. Your ego will be broken again and again. But if you accept that, if you allow it to happen instead of running from it, you will become someone unshakable. Not because you never lose, but because you've learned how to lose and still keep going. The fifth truth is this: even if you stay, Jiu-Jitsu will never give you everything you want, but it will give you everything you need. This is the hardest truth to accept, especially if you've already survived the others. You endured when most people quit. You carried injuries, pushed through plateaus, and let your ego break again and again. But deep down, you might still hold on to a quiet fantasy. The fantasy that someday Jiu-Jitsu will finally reward you with certainty. That there will come a moment when it all makes sense, when you finally feel complete, when the struggles are over and the skill is permanent. You imagine a day where you walk onto the mat and no one can touch you. A day where every roll is effortless, every tournament is yours, every problem solved. That day never comes. Even if you stay, Jiu-Jitsu will never give you absolute mastery. It will never give you a life free of struggle. It will never give you a version of yourself that is untouchable. And that is the most important truth of all. Because the gift of Jiu-Jitsu is not in satisfying your ego's desire. It's in reshaping your relationship with struggle itself. Think about it. No matter how many years you train, there will always be someone who can beat you. No matter how sharp your technique becomes, there will always be new holes in your game. No matter how strong you get, time will eventually slow you down. If what you wanted from Jiu-Jitsu was domination, you'll never be satisfied. If what you wanted was certainty, you'll never find it. If what you wanted was an escape from failure, you came to the wrong place. But if what you wanted was growth, real growth, the kind that changes who you are at the core, Jiu-Jitsu will give you that in ways nothing else can. It gives you the ability to keep showing up when your body hurts. The humility to admit when you're beaten. The patience to endure years of invisible progress. The courage to step onto the mat knowing you might fail again and again and again. Jiu-Jitsu doesn't give you the life you fantasized about. It gives you the life you need to grow into the person you were meant to be. One day you will realize this for yourself. It won't be a dramatic moment. It won't happen after a tournament win or a new belt promotion. It will happen quietly. Maybe it's a night when you lose every round, but drive home at peace instead of angry. Maybe it's when you get tapped 10 times, but find yourself laughing with your training partner afterward. Maybe it's when you coach a beginner through their first class and realize you've become the steady presence you once looked for. That's when you'll see it. Jiu-Jitsu never promised you perfection. What it gave you was transformation. And this is why the mat is a mirror. It shows you who you are when things don't go your way. It strips away comfort, control, and ego. And it asks, will you keep going anyway? If you do, then slowly, without fanfare, you'll become someone different. Someone who no longer runs from struggle. Someone who no longer panics when things fall apart. Someone who can carry the weight of frustration, of failure, of uncertainty, and still keep moving forward. That is what Jiu-Jitsu gives you. So yes, the fifth truth is harsh. Even if you stay, Jiu-Jitsu will never give you everything you want. But it will give you everything you need. And if you understand that, if you accept it, you'll find something greater than belts, medals, or mastery. You'll find freedom. The freedom of knowing you don't need Jiu-Jitsu to give you more than this moment. The freedom of showing up, letting go of pride and training for the sake of growth itself. That is the quiet gift hidden beneath all the struggle. The mat doesn't give you what you dream of. It gives you what you're missing. It doesn't make you who you wish you were. It makes you who you need to become. And maybe that's the point. That Jiu-Jitsu was never meant to give you everything you thought you wanted. It was meant to strip you down, test you, frustrate you, and then hand you the lessons you didn't know you were searching for. Because the truth is, life itself works the same way. We chase certainty. We chase recognition. We chase comfort, status, validation. And even when we get them, they don't last. But what endures is the kind of person we become in the process. And Jiu-Jitsu, more than almost anything else, forces you into that process whether you're ready or not. Think about what the mat really is. It's just canvas and foam, a square of space inside four walls. But the longer you stay, the more you realize it's something else entirely. A mirror. A teacher. A forge. Every role you've ever had is a reflection. It shows you how you react under pressure. It shows you how you deal with failure. It shows you what happens when you can't hide behind excuses, because in those moments, excuses mean nothing. You are either present or you are not. You endure or you break. You show up or you disappear. And if you've been training long enough, you know this extends far beyond the mat. When you struggle at work, when you face setbacks in relationships, when life hands you pain you didn't choose, how do you respond? Do you fold under the weight of it? Do you hide behind your pride? Do you quit because it isn't going the way you hoped? Or do you breathe, adjust, endure the same way you've learned to on the mat? That's why this art matters. Not because it turns you into someone unbeatable, but because it slowly turns you into someone unbreakable. And that unbreakability isn't loud. It's quiet. It's in the way you keep showing up when you don't feel like it. It's in the way you accept frustration without letting it consume you. It's in the way you hold yourself with humility, knowing there will always be someone better. That's real strength. And it's the kind of strength the world desperately needs. Because think about how rare it is. Most people spend their lives avoiding failure at all costs. They hide from discomfort. They quit when progress slows. They protect their ego like it's a fragile glass. But you, if you've stayed, you've learned to walk toward those things. To embrace the discomfort. To accept the failures. To let your ego shatter, knowing it will only make you stronger. That's not just training. That's transformation. And one day, years from now, you might realize that jiu-jitsu gave you more than techniques, more than belts, more than medals. It gave you a way of living. A way of facing life itself. When things get heavy, you already know how to breathe under pressure. When everything falls apart, you already know how to reset and rebuild. When the future feels uncertain, you already know how to keep showing up one day at a time. That is the hidden lesson, the one you never see on day one. The mat is not just preparing you for jiu-jitsu. It's preparing you for life. So when you ask yourself why you train, maybe the answer isn't about winning or losing. Maybe it isn't about belts or tournaments or achievements. Maybe it's about who you're becoming each time you step on the mat. Because if you look closely, that person is not the same as the one who started. They are steadier, more patient, more resilient, less attached to outcomes, and more grounded in the process itself. The mat teaches you that you don't control the pace of progress. You don't control who taps you out or how many times. You don't control when you plateau or how long it lasts. But you do control one thing, showing up. And sometimes that's all that matters. So as we close, remember this: you will not get everything you want from jiu-jitsu. But if you allow it to, it will give you what you truly need. It will give you the ability to endure, the humility to learn, the patience to grow, and the strength to keep moving forward, both on the mat and far beyond it. And maybe that is the most honest truth of all. And if you're still here at the end, you're already different than most. That tells me you'll last longer than most too. If this gave you something real, tell me, and let me know in the comments what video I should make next. Save it, share it with a teammate, and check the description for the books and resources. And YouTube thinks you'll like the next one. It's right here on the screen. I'll see you there.